In the last two lessons or videos, we discussed about the Azure storage services. As part of the Azure storage services, we have created a storage account. So under the storage account, it provides blob storage, file share, table storage, and queue storage, and SFTP. So we have seen the use of blob storage and how we can basically use it. So blob storage will provide an URL for each and every file which has been uploaded into a storage. So where the applications can use the blob storage to store like in application images or kind of an videos or kind of a PPTs or whatever the documents or anything, because that can act like in a centralized storage. Now we have file shares. So where can we use this file shares? So in on-premises, uh, we have called as a file server. So we used to call a file server, or we'll be calling it as a NAS appliance, like you might have heard about NetApps or okay. So this may be a devices which might be running a Windows operating system or Linux operating system. So on this particular ones, we create called as a shared folders. So we call this as a file server, and we create a shared folders like I would say called as an roaming profiles, called as an ISO images, like in project A or a project B. Okay, like we create a lot of shared folders and we assign permissions on the shared folders. So when users want to store the files, so they can use this file share. So file share is basically a centralized file share is basically a centralized storage for files. So which can be used for various purposes like creating a roaming profiles or storing the ISO images or documents or user data. Like so a user when he logs into the system, so we typically type // a file server name / the shared folder name plus a name. In many organizations, we would see that the network drives are being mapped. So we map this as an like called as a Z drive, okay, or like an Y drive, depends on organization to like a P drive, like depends on organization to organization. So we map this as a network drive. So when users log into their computer, so we run a login script which can automatically map this particular file shares as a network drive so that the user need not to uh, access the file share every time because the user might be frequently working on this shared folder, storing some kind of a document and everything. Now, what options we have available in Azure? Okay, so we are creating a lot of virtual machines. Uh, could be like in virtual machine 1, virtual machine 2, virtual machine 3, virtual machine 4. Like, so there could be a lot of virtual machines. I'm just calling it as a VM1, VM2, VM3, and VM4. Like this, we would see a lot of virtual machines. Now, there could be applications which needs a shared folder. Yeah, requires a shared folder which needs to be accessible across all these virtual machines. Could be for various reasons. The application which is sitting inside this virtual machine want to store some kind of a files because that is aware of the shared folders, or We want to have some kind of an centralized storage accessible to all these VMs like ISO images or some kind of a setup files or installation files where which can be accessible for multiple things. Now it can be achieved in two different ways. One is so we can create one more virtual machine in Azure and install a Windows server and create a shared folders. This is one option, which is like how we are doing it in on-prem. We can do the same thing in Azure also. So we can create a virtual machine and we can have high capacity disks and we can create a folders and we can share. So where all that shared folders can be accessible to this VM. But that is not what we wanted because there could be a lot of cost involved on the virtual machine and again maintenance, capacity, like many things. Now to overcome this, so Azure came up with called as an option called as an Azure File Shares. Azure File Shares. So Azure File Shares is just a shared folder. So under the storage account, the Azure files are shared folders, okay, which can be mapped to an Azure virtual machine or to an external VM as long as there are no restrictions. And this can be mapped as a network drive accessible from anywhere, and unlimited capacity, which is the storage capacity. You can have unlimited capacity, but by default, Azure will put a cap called as in like an 20 TB or something like that. But as long as you need it, you can increase it as you need it. But as far as security reasons, there will be some limits which going to be available. And so this shared folder can be mapped to a Linux machine or a Windows machine, okay, over the internet or could be in Azure private network and anywhere. And we can store the files, download the files, upload the files into these shared folders. So under one single storage account, we can have multiple Azure file shares and we can integrate this Azure file share with Microsoft Entra to assign permissions. So we can restrict permissions that who can access this particular file shares and who has an access to that particular file shares. Okay, that is a simple and very useful feature which we require in Azure. Okay, because some kind of legacy application will still need the shared folders to store the files or anything. So instead of creating a virtual machine and having that, so we don't need it because the backend platform will be managed by the Azure. We can simply create a shared folders and do that. So I'm just going to the Azure portal. So go to the storage account. So I'm creating a storage account called as an Venkat File Share AS in South India region. I'm saying that I want to it for files. I don't want to GRS. I just want to have a LRS. Let's review and create. So we just created a storage account. So let's go to the storage account. So under this storage account, under data storage, we can see called as in file sheets. So as of now, there are no file sheets created. Create a file share. I'm giving it called as an ISO images. Just giving a name and access type. So based on this one, the cost, okay, transfer cost and the storage file share cost will vary. Transaction optimized means, so it can consume more bandwidth. Let's say you are transferring the data from an on-prem to a cloud. You might have some 20 terabyte or 100 terabytes of data. So you need more bandwidth and faster throughput. Then we can go for a transaction optimized. Okay, but I would say called as in the cost will be less, but still you get not the high performance, but okay. But when you go to the heart, so here it's going to be charged heavily, but you get better performance and better read write performance. And cool tire is basically like an kind of an slow access. Typically, we store the files as a backup or keep it for a longer run as an archive. So that is the reason why we can use cool, but I'm just going with an transaction optimized. So I'm just creating a file share. So under one storage account, we can create multiple shares. It's not that you need to have only one and file share under one storage account. You can, as many require, you can create it. And as we would see here, the file.core.windows.net. So for a blob, we have seen blob.core.windows.net. For a file share, it will be like in file, the name of the resource.file.core.windows.net. This is how it has been like an is done. So I'm going to let's go to the file sheets. We would see that there is a file share still creating it, but I'm just saying that, okay, we have one shared folder called as an ISO images. I'm creating one more file share called as an, I would say, profiles, profiles, review and create. So now we have the ISO images. Okay, so here we can see under this file share, again, you can create uh, folders and you can upload files into this one. And you see called as a browse as we now. You don't have any data available here. Now, how we can map this to a Windows machine? Go to the overview and you can see called as an operations or anything, but you have an option called as a connect. So click on this connect. Now you get an option. So are you connecting to a Windows machine or a Linux machine or a Mac machine? So I'm connecting to a Windows machine. So what drive letter you want to assign it as a network drive? I'm just giving it a W drive. So do you want to authenticate using the Active Directory method or a storage key? Okay. So Active Directory authentication or Microsoft Entra, basically the users can use their username and password to access this, or we can have the storage key. I'm just for now, I'm with the storage key and we can see a script. So a PowerShell script, okay, will be generated. Okay. So a PowerShell script will be generated as we would see called as a command line add file share dot user and authentication, and it has been created. Now what we can do here, now this is my mission. I'm going to the Windows Explorer just for the sake. So I see as of now C drive and G drive. So I'm opening and I see this is my local PC. I'm opening the Windows PowerShell IEC. And paste this. Just execute this PowerShell script. So as we would see, there is an requirement of a port 445. So as long as that is not blocked, or see that there is some kind of an issue. Let's see. So we can see called failed destination unreachable. So over the internet, this is not able to reach because of there is a port restrictions in my network, which is the region why it is giving you a call as an unable to reach the Azure storage account via port number 445. Now I'm going to the Azure virtual machines. So I created two virtual machines. Let me connect to this virtual machine. And I'm going to the PowerShell ISC. I'm pasting here. And I'm just simply execute this one. Now this is an Azure virtual machine, which is in the Azure environment. We can see it got created. Now when I go to the Windows Explorer, we would see called as an with a drive letter called as an W, ISO images, and the shared folder. We can simply drag and drop it. It just acts like your network shared folder, and whatever the files or anything which you want to copy it or paste it, you can do that. So I'm copying a folder called as an packages and pasting it in the file share. Now it got uploaded. And there's nothing, no files here. Let me go here and see anything of files. And it pop, nothing is there. Okay, maybe I'll not copy this. I'll just copy this file. You can do that. You can copy anything. Now I'm going to another mission, another VM. So let me go to the PowerShell IAC and run this script, connect script generated by Azure on the other machine. Now it's see got connected. Now when I go to the Windows Explorer, we can see a W drive. We can see the same folders in both the machines because it has access to centralized storage. So I can see in both the machines. I'm creating a folder here. One of the server I'm called as an project A. We can see it got reflected here. I'm creating a folder called as an project B. It got. Now when I go to the Azure portal and browse the file share, to ISO images, click on browse to see the data. Now we can see the same data. So if I'm uploading some data over here, it's available. It's a centralized storage. Now when I go to the virtual machine, I would see that there are two files got uploaded. When I go to another machine, I should be able to see these two files. So that's how we can create a file shares and which can be mapped across the multiple machines, and we can play or basically access or set can be permissions for applications or give provide access for applications and everything.